Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is the Lone Caner's review of yet another rum. As if we didn't have enough already, well, there are more. And today we're not going to go with the Caribbean, we're not going to go with Panama, we're not going to go with South America. We are actually going to go to Japan. Now, Japan has had a long spirits making tradition. We know about awamoris, we know about shochus, we know about sakis, and so on. But rum is, surprisingly enough, just about as old as all of them because sugarcane has been developed on Okinawa, the southern island chain, for quite a long time. And it has a long and storied history there of fermentation and distillation and what have you. In fact, there are some shochus that are made from sugarcane called kokuto shochus. The rum we're going to talk about today is from a company that I've dealt with before called Teeda, which is an Okinawan word called sun. And the name of the distillery is actually called the Helios Distillery, which is kind of neat because, there's that confluence of names. And it has the distinction of possibly being the oldest rum making distillery in Japan, having been operational since 1961. Now, this is really quite interesting. They kind of fell into rum making by accident because there was, in the post-war years, especially in the 1950s, there was a lot of privations and with respect to food supplies and so on. And of course, rice was the staple that fed the nation, and rice was also used in making shochus and awamoris and what have you, and a lot of other drinks, including sake. Since none of that could be spared to make alcohol, they decided to use sugar instead and developed a rum industry. So they basically have made rum. Now, Helios Distillery since then has branched out into shochus, awamoris, whiskeys, beers, which is very popular for them apparently since 1996. But it's the rums that I like. And in Paris in 2019, they sort of had a coming out ceremony, if you will, where they displayed the unaged white rum, which I thought was quite nice. There was a 5-year-old that was very interesting. I think it was called a Kiyomi. And what really blew me away was the 21-year-old, which I, surprisingly enough, found in Calgary. It is actually available here in Canada. The 21-year-old Japanese is really worth your time. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this baby, which, by the way, is also available in Canada. Now, this is a very unassuming, very unapologetic, kind of quiet little thing. It's a blend. It's 40%. But it doesn't seem to advertise itself at all, which I find really peculiar because, for one thing, it is a pot still rum. Secondly, it's got a fermentation of probably going on to just about 2 weeks. Thirdly, it is made from cane juice. It is, in point of fact, an agricole style rum. I don't call it agricole for obvious reasons. It has been aged for about 2 to 3 years, and it's as pure as, well, just about anything, right? I mean, there's no additives, nothing. I've tested it. It's 40%. It's fine. And it really has a lot of very interesting tastes. For example, there is that herbaceous nature to it. There is a certain amount of rye bread. There's a little bit of funk going on in the background. There's some strawberries, some pineapples. There's actually some freshly peeled potatoes, if you can believe it. I've really kind of covered this in the written review that accompanies this video assessment. The taste is really kind of nice. It's a little bit on the sharp end, even for 40%, but it kind of opens up onto a lot of fruity notes, overripe fruit, oranges, that kind of thing. It's got a little bit of citrus. It's got a little bit of the apples and pineapples and peaches and plums, a little bit of dark, a little bit of light. But what really distinguishes it to me from both the nose and the palate is that it has a kind of sourness to it that reminds me so much of the Central Asian dish, the cold noodles called ashlian fu, which the closest equivalent I can think of is probably kimchi. To some extent, miso soup or the tom yum or whatever, those things that have that sour kind of fermented cabbage taste to it. You'd think that's really bad. It really, really isn't. It permeates in a very gentle way, both the nose and the palate, a little less on the palate. And it really gives a nice little touch to the whole experience. You can use it to mix, of course you can. I'm not a cocktail maker. I can't really tell you what to do with it. But I think as a neat sip, even at 40%, even at less than 5 years of age, this thing is really kind of impressive. And the other rums that they make, the other three, are really no slouches either. But this one I think is really quite something. It is still available in Canada. It doesn't really cost a whole lot. I think $70 at Kensington Wine Market before they sold out, something like that. It's a really nice rum. And I think I'm going to close off what has been a really stressful day by just having a sip of this little sucker. And in case you're wondering about the big glass, you really do get some good notes on this if you use it. So, yep, it's just as good as I remember. So, yep, it's worth it. I scored this, I think, at about 82 points, 83 points, something like that. I am posting the review at the same time as this. So I hope you like it. Give it a shot if you can. And if you don't, just tell me why not. Leave a comment if you will. And let's talk about it. I think it's great. And there we stop for today. Take care. Bye-bye.